Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I'm not here with Geeky Sparkles. In this video, we're going to talk about Hollywood. Things not looking too good for Hollywood. We've got another impending strike, possibly maybe with IATSE, and we're going to talk about how Hollywood never recovered from the strikes. According to the Wrap, US and TV film production was down 40% from pre-strike levels. We're going to talk about that, and IATSE having a problem with AI. They might not sign this deal. I don't know yet. I don't know what's going to happen, but everything has changed. Everything has changed. The pandemic has definitely rattled Hollywood forever. I don't think it's ever going to be what it was before. Hollywood looking for some other options now to make content, and people going elsewhere for content. So let's talk about all of this, because this, of course, was the most exciting news to happen this weekend. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Guys, no woohoos in this video. Geeky's not in it. This is coming from the Wrap. We're going to talk about IATSE, and then we're going to talk about Hollywood not recovering from the pandemic. They said that these IATSE artists are voting no on their next contract because of AI. They said that they don't have the right, I guess, to refuse AI. Members of the Art Directors Guild are raising alarms. The protections related to AI in the latest IATSE bargaining agreement do not go far enough to protect the future of their professions. The Set Designers Council, a craft committee within the ADG, see, this is confusing. A craft committee within the ADG recommended that IATSE members vote against ratifying a deal. Now, for those of you who don't know, IATSE is basically everybody. I guess they'd be the below the line workers. These are people that are not directors, not writers, not actors. This is everybody else that helps actually make the movies. And we had, of course, the strikes last year. And now these other workers are talking about going on strike as well. Anyway, in a memo, the council compared the AI protections unfavorably to those won by the Writers Guild of America and SAG-AFTRA after last year's strikes. While actors were able to maintain the rights to their own images and identities and choose to be replicated or not, the memo read, in the new contract language, we have not been given any protections relating to our individual processes when designing, building models, illustrating, or creating documents. I don't know if you're going to be given that. It's the new reality. I don't know if these corporations are going to agree to that. I don't know if Hollywood's going to agree to that. This week, tens of thousands of entertainment workers will vote on the latest IATSE bargaining agreement. It contains significant gains on compensation and set safety, but on the issue of AI, concerns persist for members of Local 800, the Art Directors Guild. These provisions look like they were just written by the employer and signed without any pushback, says an industrial designer, Matthew Cunningham, who worked on Aquaman and some other movies, has spoken to federal legislators about the threats AI poses to his profession. They don't really reflect the scope and impact this technology is going to have on our livelihoods. It's not going to stop, Matthew. And this is coming from somebody who's spent a good chunk of his life working as an artist, working as a graphic designer. It's not going to stop. You can slow it down, but companies are going to look at AI, and yes, as cheesy as it can be, and as potentially skeevy as it can be, because we don't know where they're getting the data from, the art from, the music from, whatever. It's not going anywhere. It's going to be integrated into pretty much every creative product. We're already seeing it with Adobe. It's going to get harder and harder to avoid it, and companies that are hurting, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how production has never returned to normal after the pandemic. Companies that are hurting are going to resort to doing everything they can do to save money. I mean, that is the reality. Old Hollywood is dead. It's over. And you can point to the pandemic and the strikes. It was kind of the 1-2 punch as what was kind of the kill shot for it, because probably shouldn't say that given what happened this weekend, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's there's definitely a difference, and it's not coming back. Hollywood's never coming back the way it was. Look at it's tech companies that are buying up all the studios. Tech moguls like Amazon and Ellison over at Skydance. It's never going to come back to what it was. And a lot of people are not going to continue to work in the industry. I mean, it's just the way it's going to be. This is Zach Berger, the lead creature designer for Avatar: The Way of Water, also published a social media thread outlining why he was voting against it. He explained he was part of the AI task force for the ADG that constructed proposals that both acknowledged AI's proliferation but attempted to protect members' jobs. To his dismay, he did not find any trace of those proposals the task force had assembled in the tentative agreement. Look, Hollywood, now run by tech moguls, right? Hollywood is using the opportunity to get rid of people and processes that were bloated, that did not make money. Everything's had a reset. And even these deals that they sign, the Writers Guild and the actors, like they sign these deals and they never said that they weren't going to use AI. They just said that we'll put some safeguards in place or whatever, or you'll be compensated. And then like SAG-AFTRA, immediately after they signed the contract, hurried up and they started cutting deals to sell some of their members' voices. So you could theoretically have, God rest Casey Kasem, but if Casey Kasem were still around, or his family told him that his voice could be used, he could be voicing Shaggy and Scooby-Doo forever. Like they would never need another Shaggy, and that's kind of where we're at right now. At the very least, we should be getting protections that match the WGA. He wrote, he said the WGA contract prevents writers from being forced by studios to use AI in their writing. Okay. A labor union that represents film illustrators allowing an automated illustration machine into the workplace is not something I should have to argue against, but the threat to members doesn't stop at just illustrators. We're just the canary in the coal mine. Look what Wizards of the Coast did. They basically said, yeah, we're using AI. Deal with it. It's going to speed things up. Do I think it's always ethical? No. Do I think it's here to stay? Absolutely. It is part of the creative process now, for better or worse. You don't have to like it. You can hate it. I'm not completely sold on it. And I do wonder where they're getting the images from, right? That's a huge issue. But they're going to look at it and be like, we could hire this person who wants to draw everything by hand and take months to do some, paintings, or we could hire this other person that just is essentially a bot farmer, and you can crank out all kinds of art. And this person's a really good prompt writer, or they do the basic work and then the AI takes it from there. And that's probably what the workflow is going to look like. I don't think it's going to be, this is my personal opinion as someone who's seen the beginning of CG animation, the beginning of, 2D artists using tablets. It's going to become a tool just like an art tablet, where it's going to be just expected. It's going to be expected that you work digitally because it's faster, it's more efficient. It's going to be expected that you work with AI because it's faster, it's more efficient. And at the end of the day, these companies want to make money. That's all they care about. I'm sorry. They say at least writers have the ability to refuse AI systems. We as designers don't have that. Well, what are you going to do? Photoshop has AI built into it now, and they're going to be like, yeah, you got to use what everybody's using. A lot of artists have had and will continue to have their styles and artistic identities taken and absorbed into these systems. The result is going to be very derivative output that's going to affect the quality of these productions. Well, it already is. It already is. Like, all the Marvel movies look the same. I'm just saying, I understand the concerns 100%. I get it. I don't think they care. That's the truth. Because let's talk about this. Hollywood is never going to go back to normal. It's never going to be what it was. This article says the impacts of Hollywood's cutbacks in production spending, it's coming from the Wrap again, the impacts of Hollywood's cutbacks in production spending are being felt as the number of global film and television productions are down 20% from 2022 and 40% in the U.S., according to a new report by a production and technology research company, ProdPro. The report was published in the LA Times that found that Hollywood studios spent $11.3 billion on productions in the second quarter of 2024, down 20% from the same period in 2022. And that was during the pandemic. So it's not just the pandemic. It's the strikes. Look, we told you this was going to happen. People were like, oh, Clownfish, you're just anti-union. I'm like, no, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. The deals, the way those deals were written, they reward the top performers. And I think a lot of these studios greenlit a lot of things that they kind of had buyer's remorse about, but they had to go through with it because of contractual obligations. And now they have an out. Now they're just like, yeah, We're going to reward the top performers, and we're going to pay people who work on, like House of the Dragon or something. You're going to get paid more because you're actually bringing the views. The rest of you, you're not going to get paid very much, or we're just not going to greenlight more shows that nobody's going to watch. And there were several series out there. You start to look into the numbers, and like a good chunk of what is greenlit on Netflix doesn't get watched. A good chunk of what's greenlit on Disney Plus or HBO Max doesn't get watched, which is why these companies took write-downs. They're like, nobody's watching this stuff, or at least not enough people are watching this stuff to warrant the amount of money that we're spending on it, right? So yeah, this isn't good. The figure is up around 30% from 2023, but that can be attributed to anticipation of and the start of the Writers Guild of America strike last May. Even when compared to the strike summer, the number of feature film productions that have started worldwide has dropped. Everything's in flux right now. I mean, again, we've got studios hanging on by their fingertips, getting sold. Paramount, that's a big one, Paramount and Skydance. And we've had many, many box office bombs and many, many streaming shows that did not perform. And a lot of people are just going back and watching old TV shows, old movies. They're not watching the new stuff. Industry insiders told The Wrap that they believe one factor in the decrease in production has been the anticipation of this strike by IATSE, or the Hollywood Basic Crafts, that would force productions to shut down. So they're expecting another shutdown. They think that it's not going to go through. Throughout Q2, IATSE was in lengthy talks with studios on a new mutual bargaining agreement, reaching a deal at the end of last month. That was like a tentative agreement. Members of the Crew Workers Union will vote to ratify the new contracts next week. Well, we're already having problems, aren't we? Basic Crafts, meanwhile, are in the midst of negotiations on their own contracts. They said even if the contracts are ratified, leading to more productions to return to pre-strike levels is unlikely, as studios are cutting back on spending to make their streaming services profitable. For several years, the entertainment industry benefited from an arms race among the studios as they tried to fill their fledgling streaming services with a diverse array of original films and TV shows. And a lot of that stuff just did not perform. But the new period of austerity in Hollywood has led to a significant drop in employment opportunities for the industry's workers, particularly in Los Angeles, where union members are struggling to keep up with the high cost of living. That struggle has been compounded by the exodus of productions to other states and countries in search of more generous tax incentives. And we're going to talk more about this. I'm hoping to get Fresher Luke back on. We're going to talk about where this leaves animation, because a lot of these animation productions are being moved to Canada. They're being moved overseas. Skydance are hiring, but they're hiring animators and production people in Spain. A lot of these productions are being outsourced to South Korea. Some of them wind up in North Korea by way of South Korea and China, but that's a whole nother issue. You know what I'm saying? So like the days of getting a job in the animation industry, or even just in general in Hollywood, and moving to LA and parking it there for decades, those days are over. It's over. Like, Hollywood's broken forever. It's never going to be what it was before the pandemic. Everything has changed. Hollywood is basically just a town like any other town that produces content for streaming services and video and mobile devices and whatever. I mean, that's the truth of it. The glitz and the glamour, it's all gone. You know, it's gone. We don't, that is not going to come back. Now, the upside to this is that if you live outside of Hollywood, you live outside of that bubble, you actually have the opportunity to be able to produce content as well. You can live in another country, produce content, get picked up by a Netflix, and your stuff can become as big, if not bigger, than the stuff that Hollywood's putting out. We're seeing this a lot with the South Korean shows, like Squid Game. We're seeing a boon for anime productions. In fact, I guess it's getting harder and harder to be able to secure the time of a studio because they're so busy cranking out anime. Now, whether or not their people are being paid fairly, that's, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's a whole nother issue. But like, you can literally live in the middle of nowhere. You can live in like Idaho or Wisconsin or something and start a production studio and get your stuff seen. You can start a YouTube channel and get your stuff seen, and then have, a deal with Netflix or something like that. It's possible. That's the new reality. We're going to have smaller groups of people producing content. I mean, look at Mr. Beast. I mean, I know he's got quite the machine underneath him because he's a YouTuber, but it's nothing compared to the typical staff that works on a Hollywood production, right? You know, he might have a dozen people or something working with him. I don't know how many people he has, but it's nothing like that, and he's probably making more profit. You know, so that's what's going on. They said LA remains the top driver of production employment, even ahead of rising competitors like New York, Atlanta, Chicago, and Albuquerque. The new competition, along with the rising costs and the toll the strikes have taken on the financial reserves, has put LA's entertainment workers under new strain. Yeah, that sucks. I mean, it sucks for them. I'm sorry, but it's just like this is the new reality, and I really am imploring people to take a look around you and be like, where is everything going to be in 10 years? You know, do I need to make moves now to make sure that I'm not homeless in 10 years? Because a lot of people, especially a lot of younger people, are going to be on their backs, looking up at the ceiling, being like, what the hell happened? I don't know what happened. I moved to Hollywood out of school. I went to Cal Arts or whatever, and I was promised a rose garden, and it didn't I joined a union. I did everything I was supposed to do, right? And there's no career for me in Hollywood. And it's just, you know, outside forces. Everything has changed. It's all changed. And these studios, they're going to take advantage of the strikes. They're going to take advantage of the pandemic, and they're going to try to maximize their profits. That is where we're at, guys. So yeah, Hollywood's never going to be the same. We'll see where we're at in 5 years. I mean, if you had told me 5 years ago that this is where things were going to be, I would have laughed. I'm like, all the Disney movies are making $1 billion and everybody's making money, and there's like all kinds of streaming shows. Yeah, here we are 4 years later. And it's just like, yeah, everything's broken. Half the studios are for sale. They're liquidating assets. It's like it's never going to go back to what it was. So I'm going to wrap it up. Please subscribe. We'll talk later.